I'm super excited to share it with you. I'm going to share with you the regular 1 pound of beef recipe. What you're going to see me put into the bowl is double that because there were 15 of you and I wanted to make sure I had plenty. So anyway, so you write down the 1 pound recipe. Pay no attention. I mean, when I say 1 egg, I'm going to be putting 2 in, so don't freak out. Write down that recipe. If you wind up needing to double or triple that, of course, you can do that. But I will be consistent in giving you the 1 pound recipe. All right, so we're going to start off with 1 pound of ground beef. And I'm going to put that in and go ahead and kind of break it apart just a little bit so that it can go ahead and start getting to room temperature. The meat's usually better if you set it out just a little bit before you get started. Everything kind of cooks quicker that way and cooks more thoroughly that particular way. Okay, so I've got it kind of starting to break apart. All right, second ingredient it called for was 1 medium onion. 1 medium onion. And I'm gonna rough cut that. I'm gonna dice it, but it's gonna be a little bit bigger pieces, a little bit bigger chunks. And as you are doing this, if you do not like onion and you want to use onion powder, I suppose you could, but my suggestion is cut it smaller than what I am cutting these. And this onion's got a little bit of a bad spot in it, but we're going to work around that. Okay, I'm going to give it a rinse. Please. All right, so we'll go ahead and give that a dice, but it'll be a rough dice, a little bit larger pieces. And then the next ingredient is going to be 1 medium green pepper. Now, when I went shopping yesterday, this was the only size that they had, which is pretty large, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and use that today. There's some little bits of the onion that I still don't like the look of. So get rid of that. Pour those in. When you are cutting a green pepper, there's a lot of different techniques that I've seen different chefs use. I generally just take and cut off the top of the green pepper, make sure I pull out the stem, and the little core section that has all the seeds, I just reach in the top and I pull those out. And there's inside the green pepper, there is some pithy, kind of whitish color meat on that particular green pepper. And what a lot of chefs want you to do is to cut all of that off because it's a little bit bitter. I don't know, I seem to like it. So I leave it on there, but just kind of for your knowledge, you shouldn't have any seeds. And again, you might want to take off that white part of the pepper if you do not like that part. I like using the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to cut it, and again, I'm rough cutting it. So, and this is supposed to be 1 medium. So if I were making a 1 pound batch, I might only use half of it for the recipe. But since I'm using 2 pounds, I'm gonna go ahead and utilize the whole thing. Okay. I'm just cutting it into strips and then cross-cutting it. I'm not doing a good job. They're sliding away from me today, but that's okay. Just keep moving them. And on the top. Okay, now I have gone ahead and I have pre-measured the next ingredients. So let me tell you what those are. The first one, these are all the seasonings that go into it. The first one is 1 1/2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Now, when I first got a hold of this recipe, the recipe actually had garlic salt. I thought that was too salty in the recipe, so I made it garlic powder. If you want it to be saltier than what I'm making it, by all means, change it back to garlic salt, okay? So that's one part. Okay, the next ingredient is 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of regular table salt, so that's all of the spices that go in it. The next ingredient, again, is 1 egg. I'm using 2 because I doubled it. This egg in the recipe acts as a binder. It's what holds the meatloaf together and causes it to stay together as a loaf.
So does the egg need to be at like a specific temperature?
In cooking, in general, bring all of your ingredients to room temperature, unless it tells you in the recipe that something needs to be cold. It cooks quicker when that happens. If you notice though, right before I began, I pulled it out cold from the refrigerator. So you can do it, it just kind of increases your cooking time because you have to get past the cold temperature to get it to start doing the actual cooking itself. So room temperature eggs, room temperature beef is always a good idea. Your next ingredient is 1/3 of a cup of milk. And I'm using dry milk. So I'm gonna make that up real quick. And then pour off my 2/3 of a cup. And the last ingredient is 7 to 8 saltine crackers. Okay, 1/3 of a cup of milk and 7 to 8 saltine crackers. The milk adds some moisture back to the recipe because through cooking, of course, the meatloaf itself is gonna start to become drier. And so the milk kind of adds some moisture back to it. And the crackers play another role in there in that they work with the egg to kind of hold the meatloaf together. Okay. So there's my crackers. And now we get to do the fun part. We're gonna start working the meatloaf together. Now, you can't really use a spoon and get all those things to incorporate. So you're gonna have to get your hands in there and kind of squeeze it. And so just reach in. That way you can kind of tell when it gets to the point where it's ready. You wanna get the seasoning kind of squeezed through. And you wanna make sure that the green peppers and the onions are not just a clump of green peppers in a place or a clump of onion. So you wanna make sure that it's all kind of worked together. And I use the egg as I'm looking at my mixture to be my guide. So if I'm still seeing egg, then I'm not mixed up yet. So you wanna keep it moving until that egg gets incorporated and you're not seeing just yellow globs of egg in there. But you give it a couple of squeezes. Okay, this looks beautiful. Okay, and then from here, you're gonna move that mixture over into your dish. And then you wanna shape it kind of into a loaf. So I'm gonna press down in and kind of around because I wanna leave a well or a moat in this particular case all the way around so that my sauce is gonna kind of envelop or go around that. And so that's beautiful. And it's gonna go into an oven, 350 degrees, and it's gonna cook for 1 hour. 1 hour, okay? Now, I'm gonna set this one to the side because I'm not gonna put it in the oven right now. I have another one in there that should be out in just a moment. There, it's beeping. So let me show you. We would normally put that right into the oven. And what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna pull this one out. Okay. All right, this is looking beautiful, but it's got a whole lot of fat. Nobody's gonna wanna eat all that fat. So what we wanna do is we want to pour that fat off. You gotta be careful so that the meat itself doesn't plop out of the bowl. All right, so I'm pouring off all the fat, and now we've got the meatloaf ready to be topped. And we're gonna bring it back over here to the kitchen. You put it into the 350 degree oven for 1 hour. That was 1 hour. Now, so our sauce, that's what we're gonna work on now. And our sauce, again, I have pre-measured these items to expedite. So in this bowl, I'm gonna add 1/3 of a cup of ketchup. Again, remember, I doubled it, but I'm gonna be honest with you. My family, even when I make the 1 pound version, they want me to double the sauce because the sauce is really the thing that makes this. So it's got 1/3 of a cup of ketchup, 1/3 of a cup of barbecue sauce, and that can be any flavor. I picked up the hickory flavor today for you, but I've used the honey flavor. I've used all the different flavors. So it's whatever you want it to be. Next, you need 1/4 cup of water. So I've got 1/4 cup of water, and that's just gonna help get this to be more fluid because the ketchup and the barbecue sauce is pretty thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and start incorporating it. And the last ingredient is a teaspoon of vinegar, a teaspoon of mustard, and 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. The sugar's there to kind of take out the bite from the vinegar and the mustard and kind of blend that, kind of calm it down just a little bit. Okay, so you give it a nice little swirl with the whisk. And then with the help of the pot holder, we're going to take that off and pour the sauce onto the meatloaf. And it's going to need another 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for the sauce to kind of warm up and for any remaining cooking on that meat that needs to happen. Okay? And just kind of make sure that that's all around it. If you need to move that meatloaf around, you can do it. That's lovely. Okay, so we'll put it back in the oven for 15 minutes, and then you guys will get a chance to taste that. Hope you enjoy it. Please make it, okay?